There comes a moment in the narcissist's psychological warfare when they realize that all their obvious weapons have been neutralized by your growing strength and awareness. Their rage no longer moves you. Their manipulation tactics have been exposed. Their gaslighting attempts bounce off your newfound clarity like stones off armor. It's in this moment of complete tactical failure that they reach for their most devastating weapon. One so perfectly disguised, so psychologically sophisticated, so wrapped in the language of care and devotion that even the strongest survivors can be caught off guard. This isn't just another manipulation attempt. This is what Carl Jung would recognize as the ultimate perversion of the archetypal energy of love itself, transformed into a weapon of such subtle cruelty that it can destroy you while making you believe you're being cherished. If you've ever experienced that moment when a narcissist's behavior suddenly became overwhelmingly loving and attentive right when you were at your strongest, if you felt confused by their apparent transformation into everything you ever wanted them to be, if you've wondered why their most beautiful expressions of love felt somehow hollow and dangerous, then you need to understand what I call love bombing as psychological assassination. Hit that like button if you're ready to explore this darkest territory of human manipulation, and subscribe with notifications on because we're about to examine the most insidious form of abuse, the kind that uses your deepest longings for authentic connection as weapons against your very soul. The transition to love as a weapon represents the narcissist's final evolution in psychological warfare. Jung understood that the most powerful human drives, love, connection, belonging, spiritual union, could be corrupted and weaponized by those who lack authentic access to these experiences. When the narcissist realizes they cannot break you through obvious cruelty, they shift to what appears to be its opposite: overwhelming devotion, perfect understanding, and seemingly unconditional love. But this isn't the return of their authentic self or evidence of genuine growth. This is what Jung would call shadow mimicry of the transcendent function, the counterfeit reproduction of love's highest expressions without any of love's authentic substance. The narcissist has studied your deepest needs, your most profound longings, your core wounds around love and connection, and they're now weaponizing this knowledge in the most sophisticated manipulation campaign they've ever attempted. The first manifestation of this love-disguised attack is what I call surgical empathy deployment. The narcissist suddenly demonstrates an uncanny ability to understand exactly what you need emotionally in any given moment. They seem to intuitively know when you need comfort, when you need space, when you need encouragement, when you need validation. Their emotional attunement appears flawless, their responses perfectly calibrated to your psychological state. But Jung would recognize this as calculated emotional mimicry rather than genuine empathy. The narcissist isn't feeling what you're feeling. They're performing what they've learned you want to see. They've spent months or years studying your emotional patterns, cataloging your reactions, mapping your vulnerabilities and desires. Now they're using this information to create the illusion of perfect emotional connection. What makes this surgical empathy so devastating is its precision. This isn't generic love bombing with flowers and gifts. This is laser-targeted emotional manipulation that addresses your specific core wounds and unmet needs. If you've always longed to be truly seen and understood, they suddenly see and understand you with supernatural accuracy. If you've craved intellectual connection, they engage with your ideas with perfect attunement. If you've yearned for spiritual partnership, they mirror your deepest beliefs and values with uncanny precision. The cruel genius of this approach is that it gives you a taste of what authentic love might feel like while being completely devoid of love's essential qualities: genuine care for your well-being, respect for your autonomy, and commitment to your growth and happiness. You're experiencing the form of perfect love without any of its substance, like tasting the most beautiful cake only to discover it's made of cardboard and paint. The second aspect of this final attack is what I call healing journey hijacking. The narcissist suddenly becomes intensely interested in your personal growth, your therapy process, your spiritual development, and your journey toward wholeness. They position themselves as your partner in healing, your companion on the path to authentic selfhood, your most devoted supporter in becoming who you're meant to be. They'll use the language of psychology, spirituality, and personal development with impressive fluency. They'll reference concepts from therapy, quote wisdom traditions, and demonstrate seemingly profound insights into the nature of healing and growth. They'll express genuine-sounding regret for their past behavior, claiming that your strength and clarity have inspired their own awakening to the need for authentic change. But Jung would recognize this as therapeutic mimicry for control purposes, the reproduction of healing language and concepts without any genuine commitment to the inner work they represent. The narcissist isn't actually engaging in self-reflection, shadow work, or authentic growth. They're performing these processes because they've learned that this performance is the key to regaining access to your inner world. This healing journey hijacking is particularly insidious because it targets your deepest hope, the hope that the person you loved might actually be capable of genuine transformation. They're not asking you to ignore their past behavior or pretend their abuse didn't happen. Instead, they're acknowledging their dysfunction while claiming to be actively working to heal it. They're giving you permission to believe that your love might have been the catalyst for their authentic awakening. The third manifestation of love as a weapon is what I call future fantasy co-creation. Rather than simply promising a better future, the narcissist invites you to actively participate in designing the life you'll build together. They engage with your dreams, your goals, your vision for the relationship with enthusiasm that seems genuine and investment that appears authentic. They don't just tell you what they think you want to hear. They collaborate with you in creating a shared vision that incorporates your deepest desires and highest aspirations. Jung would understand this as archetypal hijacking of the creative function, using your natural drive to create meaning and build a meaningful life as raw material for manipulation. The narcissist isn't genuinely interested in building this future with you. They're using your investment in the shared vision as psychological leverage to maintain control over your present choices and emotional state. This future fantasy co-creation is devastating because it requires your active participation in your own manipulation. You're not just passively receiving their promises. You're actively contributing your creativity, your dreams, your deepest longings to the construction of a future that they have no intention of honoring. You become complicit in your own deception, which makes it infinitely harder to recognize and resist. The fourth aspect of this final attack is what I call selective vulnerability weaponization. The narcissist begins sharing what appears to be authentic vulnerability, childhood wounds, deep fears, shameful secrets, profound regrets. But this isn't random emotional sharing. It's strategically calculated to create maximum emotional bonding while revealing information that makes you feel special, chosen, trusted with their deepest truths. They'll share stories of past abuse that mirror your own experiences, creating a sense of shared trauma and mutual understanding. They'll reveal fears that align perfectly with your protective instincts, making you feel needed and important. They'll confess regrets that seem to demonstrate authentic self-awareness and genuine remorse for their past behavior. But Jung would recognize this as shadow material deployment for bonding purposes, using their own psychological wounds not for healing or authentic connection, but as tools to create artificial intimacy and emotional dependency. The narcissist isn't sharing these vulnerabilities to deepen genuine relationship. They're using their pain as bait to hook your empathy and compassion. What makes this selective vulnerability so effective is that it creates the illusion of mutual healing. You feel like you're helping them process their pain while they're helping you process yours. You feel like witnesses to each other's deepest truths, partners in each other's healing journey. But their vulnerability is performed rather than felt, calculated rather than spontaneous, weaponized rather than authentic. The fifth manifestation of love as a weapon is what I call identity celebration manipulation. The narcissist suddenly becomes your biggest cheerleader, your most enthusiastic supporter, your most devoted admirer. They celebrate your achievements, acknowledge your growth, praise your strength, and validate your journey with intensity that feels overwhelming and wonderful. They see you, appreciate you, and champion you in ways that feel like the recognition you've always craved. But Jung would understand this as ego inflation through external validation manipulation, using your natural need for recognition and appreciation to create psychological dependency on their approval. The narcissist isn't genuinely celebrating who you are. They're studying what kind of validation most effectively hooks your attention and emotional investment. This identity celebration is particularly cruel because it gives you a taste of being truly seen and valued while being completely conditional on your continued engagement with the relationship. The moment you step back, set boundaries, or question their motives, this celebration disappears, leaving you wondering if perhaps you imagined the depth of their appreciation or somehow failed to deserve their continued admiration. The sixth aspect of this final attack is what I call sacred experience manufacturing. The narcissist creates moments that feel transcendent, spiritual, deeply meaningful, experiences that seem to represent the pinnacle of human connection and love. These might be profound conversations under the stars, shared moments of natural beauty, intimate encounters that feel like spiritual communion, or experiences of perfect understanding and unity. Jung would recognize this as archetypal manipulation through numinous experience creation, manufacturing encounters with the sacred not for genuine spiritual connection, but as a form of psychological bonding that creates powerful emotional memories and associations. The narcissist understands that these peak experiences create psychological imprints that are extremely difficult to question or abandon. These manufactured sacred experiences are designed to become reference points that you'll return to whenever you doubt the relationship or consider leaving. They're psychological anchors that make it seem impossible that someone capable of sharing such profound moments could be fundamentally deceptive or manipulative. They create a category of experience that feels too special, too meaningful, too spiritually significant to be contaminated by ordinary concerns about psychological health or emotional safety. The seventh and perhaps most devastating aspect of love as a weapon is what I call soul recognition theater. The narcissist doesn't just claim to love you. They claim to recognize you at the deepest level of your being. They speak of feeling like they've known you forever, of experiencing an instant soul connection, of finding in you the missing piece of themselves they've been searching for their entire life. Jung would understand this as anima-animus projection for soul capture purposes, using the archetypal energies of perfect partnership and spiritual completion as tools for psychological enslavement. The narcissist presents themselves not just as someone who loves you, but as someone who is cosmically designed to be your perfect complement, your spiritual match, your destiny. This soul recognition theater is the ultimate weapon because it doesn't just attack your emotional defenses. It attacks your spiritual discernment. It makes questioning the relationship feel like questioning fate itself, like rejecting a gift from the universe, like turning away from your own soul's recognition of its perfect mate. It transforms leaving the relationship from a psychological choice into what feels like spiritual self-betrayal. The devastating effectiveness of love as a weapon lies in its complete inversion of everything healthy relationships teach us about trust and discernment. Healthy love grows gradually, reveals itself through consistent action over time, and deepens through mutual vulnerability and authentic sharing. But this weaponized love appears suddenly in its complete form, overwhelming in its intensity and perfection. Jung would recognize this as the narcissist's final attempt to create what he called psychological possession, a state where your sense of self becomes so entangled with their presence that leaving feels like psychological death. They're not trying to be in relationship with you. They're trying to become the organizing principle of your entire emotional and spiritual reality. Understanding this final attack doesn't mean becoming cynical about love or closing your heart to authentic connection. It means developing what Jung would call discernment between authentic and counterfeit transcendence, the ability to distinguish between love that liberates and love that enslaves, between connection that honors your wholeness and connection that requires your fragmentation. The path forward involves trusting your body's wisdom as much as your heart's longing. Authentic love creates expansion, freedom, and increased connection to your own authentic self. Weaponized love creates contraction, dependency, and disconnection from your inner knowing. Authentic love makes you more yourself. Counterfeit love makes you lose yourself. Your healing journey involves learning to recognize love not by its intensity or its beauty, but by its effects on your psychological sovereignty, your connection to your authentic self, and your capacity for genuine joy and freedom. True love doesn't require you to abandon your discernment. It enhances your ability to trust your own inner knowing while opening your heart to genuine connection. Share in the comments which aspect of love as a weapon you've experienced, And remember that recognizing these patterns isn't about becoming closed to love. It's about becoming open to love that's worthy of your beautiful, strong, authentic heart. Subscribe for more insights into protecting your capacity for authentic connection, while maintaining the discernment that keeps you safe from those who would weaponize your deepest longings against you. The narcissist's final attack reveals something profound. Your capacity for love is so beautiful, so powerful, so transformative that those who lack authentic access to love will go to extraordinary lengths to counterfeit it in order to possess what they cannot genuinely experience. Your recognition of counterfeit love isn't evidence of your cynicism. It's evidence of your growing wisdom about what authentic love actually feels like.